Dear students, my name is Jordan Simeonov, and in this video presentation I will acquaint you with the definition of the toxicity effects of pesticides on the human body. I will begin with the general description of pesticides and to answer the main question why pesticides are regarded as one of the main environmental pollutants. The basic reasons is the very limited level of the target selectivity, which allows for not more than 5% of the pesticides dispersed in the environment to reach the target organisms. The definition and explanation of human health and the general definitions for toxic substances, what is poison, toxicant, toxin, xenobiotic, is presented. The term exposure to a pollutant, which is the presence of a certain concentration of pollutant material in the air, water or soil, to which a living organism is exposed, is defined. Terms as dose and time of exposure, and also what is the meaning of acute and chronic toxicity, are defined and explained. The pesticide pathways in the environmental media, the sources and the pathways of human pesticide exposure to pesticides are graphically presented. Lists of chronic health effects and diseases induced by the exposure to pesticides are also presented. This is the title page for presentations of the Erasmus project ToxOR Learning Toxicology through open educational resources. And now let us go back on the topic and include some more detail. The role of toxicology and clinical toxicology is to study the toxic effects of chemical compounds on human body. The general definitions for toxic substances are: a poison is legally a substance that is fatal at a dose of less than 50 mg per kilogram. A toxicant is a substance that may produce effects on humans. A toxin is a toxicant produced during the metabolism of invading living organisms. A xenobiotic is a chemical that is foreign into the entire biological system, including the human body. Human health is a complex mixture of elements as hereditary factors, lifestyle choices, socioeconomic status, access to medical services. Apart from the expected contributions of lifestyle choices, dietary factors and genetic state, many xenobiotics increase the risk of appearance of biological and health effects. There are several factors that govern the biological effects of the pollutants and their metabolites in any living organism. First, they need to enter the organism and be transported to the target sites where they need to bind to and interact with their biological receptors, or be stored and resist the action of degradative enzymes. Exposure to pesticides and effects on human health. Exposure to a pollutant is the presence of a certain concentration of pollutant material in the air, water or soil, to which a living organism is exposed. Dose received by an organism depends by the time of exposure and the quantity of pesticide. Considering the time of exposure to toxicants, two types of toxicity are distinguished. Acute toxicity, observed soon after a short time or one-time exposure to the chemical pollutant. Chronic toxicity, resulted after a long-term and/or repeated periods of exposure to lower doses of the chemical pollutant. The main sources and pathways of human pesticide exposure are graphically presented. Living organisms in general, as well as humans in particular, are concurrently exposed to two or more pesticides in their environment, situation that leads to the development of combined toxicological effects. These emerging effects are: simple effect or independent action of the individual pesticide, where the effect of one pesticide is the same whether the other one is present or not, and the combined effects will be the sum of the individual effects. Dose addition effect or agonist effect, which refers to mixtures of individual pesticides with the same mode of action and the same toxicological effects, which differ only in the potencies. Interaction effect, which is referred to as the joint action, where the combined effects of more pesticides may be greater or synergistic or less or antagonistic than the predicted effects. At the end of the presentation is the closing page of the TOXOR project, where you can see the logos of the participating educational institutions from 7 European countries.